I miss them because even today I still miss reading some of the people who die. I don't hear of it till after they had the funeral. And I keep laughing. I said they need to put the death notices on the telephone pole again.
Wow.
But it was a different time. And of course life was simpler then. We had someone that worked during the day to cook and wash and clean the house and iron. But she didn't know what she'd cook till she got to the house in the morning, and she'd decide what Mother wanted for lunch for the kid, for all of us. And then she'd call the grocery store and order what she needed. They'd deliver it, she'd have it cooked by noon. That's not the way it's done today. No, it was just a simpler time. Simpler time. But, of course, a lot more conveniences today than we had back then. The washing and ironing and all that was a tremendous job, in those days. Yeah. There was something that was said not long ago on one of the shows about a Pepsi Cola bottle or RC bottle. Why did the cap have holes in it? And no one knew. I knew. Because they used that to put water in and sprinkle the clothes. You had to sprinkle them and roll them to iron them.
Oh. Was it kind of like a starch almost?
Some of them was starch, but some of them, no matter what you had to solder. They weren't steam irons, so they had to be damp. But they used the old bottle, and the top had holes in it. It had a cork in the bottom, so the stuff wouldn't leak out or anything. But you take the cork out, and then you could use it for the sprinkle, yeah. But it was, like I say, a simpler time and a slower time. We had time to visit every Sunday. My aunts who lived here, we'd see them at church, but then they'd come and after lunch and visit with us and have coffee and cake and dessert every Sunday. That was part of it. You visited. We don't visit anymore.
Right. My grandma likes when I go over there and just sit with her.
Just to sit, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my aunts, they were both widows, and they lived together in the old Craig home. And it was so funny, but every time they'd back out from the driveway, my aunt wasn't a good driver, and she'd go in the ditch behind her. And our neighbor across the street, he knew, and he'd have a chain ready, and his tractor, so he could pull her out of the ditch every Sunday afternoon. Like I say, that was an easier time.
So what was the story of living in this house?
Living in this house? Okay. In fact, this was the bedroom when we lived here. Oh. We didn't live here that long, and I was in Baton Rouge at the time, but my mother was here because we still had the paper. And my dad was working in Lake Charles in a defense plant at that time. And we had a friend who was the linotype operator. He had worked at the paper with Mother and Dad, and he ran the paper while all this was going on. But my brother was in the Navy overseas, and Bob, my brother, was in college at McNeese.
What time is this?
During the war. It was, I'm trying to think, 43, something like that. I was a sophomore in high school, and my mother had the job in Baton Rouge, part-time job working over there, trying to make money, because in the war the papers weren't making any money. You couldn't advertise. There was nothing to advertise. You didn't have anything. Everything was for the war effort, So my dad worked at a plant in Lake Charles, and Mother had this job at LSU. Until she got sick and had to come back. And they wanted me to stay in Baton Rouge, and my grandmother was a matron at the School for Blind with the high school boys. And so the superintendent of school there thought that would be a good idea for me to stay with my grandmother. She had a separate apartment downstairs to let the children, the boys who were blind, be around a sighted person, and a sighted girl at that, you know. So that's what we did. They taught me how to read and write Braille, and they helped me with my homework. We had one that was a genius in math, and he helped me with my algebra, which was always giving me trouble, you know. So we had a good time. They had never played cards, and we marked a deck of cards in Braille, and I taught them to play Bourrée and Battle, easy little games like that, and they loved it. They loved it, and it was an experience for me too, to be around them. I still have good friends that were there at the School for Blind.
Wow.
They don't call it that anymore, visually impaired, yeah. But, and because Mother had to come back here for surgery, she had to, after she got out of the hospital, she stayed here, and my aunt would come bring food and take care of her, you know. And then friends would come by and take care of her too, because she couldn't get up or do anything at that time. Surgery at those years was, you know, a long recovery.
Was this like a guest house then, or?
It was an apartment. There were apartments, several apartments, and they were always full, because it was a nice place to live. Very convenient and well maintained, you know. And Rain didn't have rent houses in that time, no apartments at all in those years. And I'd come in when I could, and my brother would come from McNeese when he could, and Jim came once at Christmas, because we spent Christmas here one year. That front room there, we had a little tree right in the window, a little tiny tree. That was our Christmas tree. But there weren't any gifts anyway. That was during the war. They gave me a little stuffed teddy bear about this big, and that was my Christmas present. And I don't think they got anything. But that was all right. We were home and we were all together, so that was fine.
So you said that you were a frequent shopper to
At Mervyn's.
Mervyntown?
Yes. In fact, I got one of the last pair of real nylons from Mervyn's, because during the war they could stop making the nylons. Not nylons, the silk stockings, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and they couldn't get the silk anymore, so we didn't have stockings. What you'd buy is the leg paint, and paint your legs, and you had a pencil or a pen to make the seam to go down, because in those years they had seams, you know, and so that's how but they had a couple of pair of nylon left, and Mother talked to I don't remember which one it was, but anyway, she sold Mother some of the last pair of nylons for me, because I was in high school by that time, and needed, you know, thought I would die to paint my legs. I didn't like that idea at all. And then when they came out with the nylons, the artificial stockings, Mervyn's was one of the first place to sell the nylons, and so I could get them there after that. But that was a big experience for me, to be able to have silk stockings when no one else had them, you know.
Right.
And then we visited upstairs, where the Kahn family lived upstairs over the store, and we visited up there with them several times, and they lived up there from the whole time, you know, and they had it really nice. They had that screen porch across the front. In fact, y'all have seen the picture of it. But they lived up here across the top.
What's this picture from?
Oh, my mother has, from the paper, she has so many pictures in such a collection. And they got in, the way they get in was, there's a stairway, an entryway here on the side, and the stairs went up there. And this was 1886, so
Wow.
it was when it first got started, yeah. And then I have this picture, because one of the things we enjoyed, and a lot of people don't realize, was on Saturday, you couldn't get near Mervyn's for the horse and buggies. The people
Right.
coming from the country, you know.
We had some newspaper clippings. There's like a scrapbook almost
Yeah,
thing, and
uh-huh.
they had a picture like this in it. It's probably this picture.
They had the metal things to tie the horses to, and then after the war, they started getting cars. You know, before that, everyone came in their horse and buggies. But we'd go meet my family, my parents at the office, and we lived down on Polk Street down. But when we got to those things, we'd play on them, swing on them like, you know, and my brothers could pull themselves up and cut flips on them. But I was not tall enough to do that. But that was entertainment for kids all the time. And then finally, it wasn't too many years ago they took them out. Because, you know, they were just in the way there. But that was an experience too, to have those to play on.
Right.
Yeah, and then to see the horse and buggies. And that was during the war. Right after the war, that picture was taken. So you couldn't get cars during the war, so they had to depend on horse and buggies, you know. But the other thing at Mervyn's, no matter where you went, almost in the state, everyone knew about Mervyn Cons. They'd come and shop at Mervyn Cons. In Baton Rouge, when my grandmother was there and I was working there, not working, going to school there, staying with her,